everyone, Mrs. Lally here, and in this video you're going to learn how to divide decimals by whole numbers. We've been working on multiplication recently, and now it's time to switch gears and work on some division. So as you can see, I've set up my graph paper for homework tonight. I have my name in the top left corner, and I have a title on the top of my graph paper, which your math teacher should have given you. So take a minute, please. Oops. Take a minute and set up your paper the way that I've set up mine. As a side note, I want you to make sure that at the end of the video you stay tuned and keep an ear out for a secret message that you are expected to have written on your graph paper and be able to share with the class tomorrow. So listen out for that at the end. Okay? Alright, so we're going to do a few things in this video today. We're going to solve two problems together. There'll be the two example problems. We're also going to make an estimate for each problem. And then at the end, there will be two extra problems for you to solve for homework tonight. Okay? So let's start by writing a 1 on our paper. And this is going to be the first problem that we're going to work through. Write this down on your graph paper, please. 9 65/100 divided by 5. See, we have a whole number going into a decimal. So the decimal is, the dividend and the whole number is the divisor. Okay, so like I said, the first thing that I'm going to do is make an estimate. And the estimate is going to help me place my decimal point at the end, even though I'm going to show you a really short, quick, easy trick to place the decimal point. But the estimate will also help us figure out if our answer, the quotient, makes sense. Okay, so we're going to use rounding rules. Our rounding rules for decimal division are to be rounding to the greatest place. So I want you to rewrite the problem on the side for the estimate. I want you to write it like this. 9 65/100 divided by 5, just like that. That way when we mark it up for rounding, we don't mess up our work area over here. We'll do it over here. So if we're going to round to the greatest place, we're going to underline the ones here. That's the greatest place in 9.65. The 6 next door will tell us whether to round up or down. So the 6 tells us to round up. So we're going to change the 9 to a 10. Write that on the side. Now, the 5 here is a nice whole number that I know divides into 10 evenly. So I'm going to keep the 5 as is. I'm not going to round it. I'm going to keep it alone. Leave it alone. So let's solve this problem to find an estimate. 10 divided by 5. Our estimate is 2. Okay, so our actual answer, when we do the problem out, the actual answer should be somewhere around 2. It might be a little bit more or it might be a little bit less, but it's going to be close to 2. And again, this estimate should help you place the decimal point. Okay, so let's now do the problem out. What I want you to do is just forget about the decimal point. Pretend it's not even there. We're going to follow all of the same division rules, the whole long division method, just like we did previously this year with whole numbers. We're going to forget about the decimal point for now. Okay, we'll deal with it at the end. So let's start by asking ourselves, how many times does 5 divide into 9? Well, I know 5 goes into 9 once, so I'm going to put a 1 above the 9. 1 times 5 is 5. Next is to subtract, so 9 minus 5 is 4. And I'm going to bring down, my next digit is a 6. I'll bring that down. Okay, let's repeat. How many times does 5 go into 46? If you said 9 times, you're right. Put a 9 up above the bar. 9 times 5 is 45. Subtract and bring down for the last time. Okay, last time to repeat. 5 goes into 15 how many times? Well, I know 5 divides into 15 3 times without going over. So 3 goes up. 3 times 5 is 15. Subtract. Okay, no remainder. Excellent. Now, the answer is not 193. We have to place the decimal point appropriately. Here's the easy part. When you divide a decimal by a whole number, all you have to do is bring your decimal point which is, remember, your dividend. All you're going to do is bring that decimal point straight on up and place it in the answer straight up. See, I drew a little arrow to show you. You're just going straight on up and you're placing the decimal point in between these two digits right here. Let's go back to our estimate and look. Our estimate was 2. 1.93, that's pretty close to 2. You can also use your estimate to check your answer and see if it makes sense. If you place your decimal point here, 1.93, that's really close to 2. If I had placed it here, for example, and gotten an answer of 19.3, well, that doesn't make sense because my estimate was only 2. So if my actual answer is 19.3, that's not going to work. So you can use your estimate to check to make sure that your answer makes sense. Or use my little trick. Just bring that decimal point straight on up. Okay? So the answer is 1.93. You can write it down here on the side and circle it. That's what I like to do sometimes. One more quick thing. See how nice and neat I kept my work? Bringing up the decimal point and putting it above the line will work perfectly, but you have to make sure you keep your work nice and neat, okay? And graph paper should help you do that. Let's try another problem together. I'm going to bump mine up a little bit. Let's try a second problem. Okay, this time we're going to do a double digit. So label it number 2 and write this problem out with me. We're going to take 41 and 16/100, and we're going to divide that by a double digit whole number. We're going to divide it by 12. Okay? First thing to do is make an estimate. I want you to, on the side, I want you to rewrite the problem again. 41.16 divided by 12. Okay, so again, we can round to the greatest place to get our estimate. That's fine. So I'm going to round down to 40. And 12, well, that'll round down to 10. So 40 divided by 10, that gives me an estimate of about 4. So I know my answer is going to be about 4. Now, some of you might be wondering, and I am going to point this out, some of you might be wondering about changing up the digits a little bit, the numbers a little bit, to make the estimate be a little bit closer to your actual answer. And so what I'm talking about is, could you in some way change up 41.16? Could you change that number and make it a number that is divisible by 12? Well, I know that 36 is divisible by 12. 36 is pretty close to 41.16. So I could change my dividend just for the purpose of the estimate. I could change it to 36 and divide that by 12. And you see, I wouldn't change my divisor at all. So 36 divided by 12 gives me an estimate of about 3. So that's just another way to think about it. You can use your rounding rules, but sometimes rounding rules don't work out perfectly. And when they don't, we have to change up the dividend or the divisor a little bit to make it work out. So when we do the problem out and get the actual answer, we'll see what our actual answer is closer to, if it's closer to 4 and closer to 3. So we'll see. Okay? All right, so let's get back to it. When I divide, I'm going to ask myself questions. How many times do I think 12 goes into? Well, I know it doesn't go into 4. But I know 12 can divide into 41. Remember, I'm just going to pretend the decimal point's not there for now. Place it at the end. Okay, 12 divides into 41. Well, 3 times. I know that because 12 times 3 is 36. And that's close enough to 41 without going over. So 12 goes into 41 3 times. I'm going to place the 3 above the 1, just like normal regular division. Okay, 3 times 12 is 36. Subtract. 11 minus 6 is 5. 3 minus 3 is 0. Okay, next step is to bring down. All right, so now I'm going to repeat. 12 goes into 51. Well, let's see. 12 times 3 was 36. Look on the side here. Let's see what 12 times 4 is and see if I can get closer to 51. 2 times 4 is 8, 4 times 4. 12 times 4 is 48. That's close to 51 without going over. Okay, So 12 goes into 51 4 times. I'm going to put the 4 above the 1. 4 times 12 again is 48. Subtract. I have to borrow here. Okay, so I have a 3. All right. Last time, bring down. So bring down that 6. Oh, 12. How many times does that go into 36? Well, I already know that 12 goes into 36 3 times. So I'm going to put a 3 up here. 3 times 12, 36. Perfect. Subtract. No remainder. Okay, now it's time to place the decimal point. If you've placed it right here, you're absolutely correct because that's just straight on up. I'll draw a little arrow to show you. Straight on up. Let's compare that back to our estimates. Oh yeah, look. Our first example estimate, we had a 4. Our second one I showed you, we estimated around 3. Well, 3.43, technically it's closer to 3. But that's in between 3 and 4. Either of these estimates would have worked perfectly. Alrighty, nice job. We can put the answer down here now. Alright, so now that that's done, you've seen 2 example problems with estimates. I want you to bump up your paper, or I'll bump my paper up. And you're going to write these 2 problems on the bottom, okay? You can solve them right on the front here if you have the room. I write really big, so I don't have the room. Or you can do it on the back, okay? So here are your 2 problems for homework tonight to try on your own. Number 3, write this out. 9 and 24 hundredths, and you're going to divide that by 3. Don't forget to make an estimate. Number 4, you're going to solve this problem too. You're going to do 72 and 5 tenths, and you're going to divide that by 25. Okay? Perfect. So these are the 2 problems that you're going to do for homework tonight. Please make an estimate before you solve the problem and think about the little trick I showed you for placing that decimal point in the quotient. Okay? Time for the secret message. The secret message is my height. You learned Miss Driscoll's height in a video. You learned Mrs. Richards' height, and now it's time for mine. So, I am 5 feet 6 and 3/4 inches. 5, 6, and 3/4. Most of the time I just round that up and I tell people that I'm 5 foot 7 inches. So if you want to go with that, that's fine. Alright, that's my height. So I guess I'm in the middle of Miss Driscoll and Mrs. Richards. Alright everybody, hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening. Good luck on your practice problems, and we will see you all tomorrow.